Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. In less than 1 month, E3 will be upon us, and I keep saying it, but E3 really seems to be shaping up to be a great one. Xbox seems to have a big event planned with Bethesda, and now we have several Nintendo games that leaked online, some of which will probably be announced at their Nintendo Direct/E3, and these are very exciting. We'll talk all about that today, as well as Xbox. Speaking of Xbox and their E3 event, it sounds like they'll be set to announce a big exclusive alongside a release window that has the internet going absolutely crazy. I'm not really sure that they should be, but we'll get into that here in just a bit. Let's start off the week though with some good news for PlayStation. Last year's Game of the Year candidate Hades was rated in South Korea. Now this isn't always the case, but oftentimes when a game gets rated somewhere, an official announcement follows afterwards. This could be weeks or even months in some situations, but regardless, it does look like Hades is bound for PlayStation, which is excellent news. Now, there's no sign of an Xbox release just yet, but I wouldn't rule that out completely. I do imagine this game will come to all platforms eventually, even if it gets a staggered release between each individual console. It was amazing to see last year though, because Hades got several Game of the Year awards from numerous outlets. It was actually one of the most awarded games last year alongside The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, that is astonishing considering Hades is a smaller independent game. You don't usually see small independent games like this get that many Game of the Year awards, and that's a testament to just how good Hades actually is. I do own this game on the Switch myself, and I can say it is a very good game. I think one of the reasons it's so special though is not just because of how fun it is, which it is, but also because its story and characters. It mixes in all these great, phenomenal characters with a roguelike experience. I do think Hades may have changed roguelike games forever. At the very least, it definitely set the bar. But yeah, this is great news, and if and when they announce Hades for PlayStation, I do highly recommend trying it out for yourself if you haven't already. It's currently available on PC and the Switch, with it hopefully coming to PlayStation soon. Now, last week, Mass Effect Legendary Edition released, and it's been so cool to see this trilogy launch after all these years. I still remember playing Mass Effect 1 when it first launched for the Xbox 360, and all week I've been seeing Mass Effect on my timeline, where both old-time fans and newcomers are enjoying this remastered bundle. I'm really happy to see all these people enjoy this trilogy because it truly is one of the best trilogies of all time, and especially seeing people enjoy them for the first time is awesome to see. Well, the good news is that Mass Effect Legendary Edition is having some early success, it seems. On Steam, Mass Effect Legendary Edition opened up as the best-selling game for the week, ending May 16th, which is kind of impressive considering Resident Evil Village, which will ultimately end up being one of the biggest games to release in 2021, released the week prior. It's still selling well on its own, of course, but Mass Effect did have some competition here, and it still came out on top for its opening week, which is a good sign. It actually enjoyed the most concurrent players on Steam for any BioWare game at 59,000 concurrent players. Now, to be fair though, BioWare games were stuck being EA Origin exclusives for a long period of time, so do keep that in mind. It was also the best-selling box game in the UK for the week though. Yeah, it just kind of goes to show you that fans are still very interested in this franchise, and that's the thing, BioWare does have a big generation planned. They are, after all, working on Mass Effect 4, and this is the perfect collection to get everybody caught up before they start really pushing for Mass Effect 4. If you all have missed out on this franchise though, I do highly encourage you to go out and play it before Mass Effect 4 comes out. They have aged really well both in terms of gameplay and especially with their stories. They have such good stories and characters, and that's something that I will always remember about these games. Now, Mass Effect 1 hasn't aged as well per se, but they did focus on fixing that with this remaster. So yeah, if you do get the chance, you might want to check out Mass Effect Legendary Edition, whether you've played it before or if you haven't played it yet. This is the perfect compilation. Nonetheless though, big congrats to BioWare on their successful launch for Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Moving on though, since we're on the topic of games on PC, PlayStation could be preparing to release more of their games on the Steam storefront. They have been a little bit more open to the idea of PlayStation PC games in recent years. We've seen Death Stranding, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, among a few other PlayStation games released for PC, over the last few years. Well, they might be set to release several more according to their very own public Steam profile. Apparently, their PlayStation Studios Steam page shows that they have 41 games and DLC content on Steam. Keep in mind, a lot of that is just simply DLC, and not all 41 are games, but interestingly enough, only 24 out of 41 pieces of content shows up on Steam. Now that seems kinda strange, and it has led to a lot of speculation that maybe Sony is about to announce more games for Steam. Well, truthfully, if that turns out to be true, that isn't really all that surprising. Sony and PlayStation boss Jim Ryan have alluded to this several times. In fact, back in February, Jim Ryan talked about PC ports and how they wanted to expose their great games to a wider audience. It just doesn't sound like that they're going to stop, and really, why should they? I mean, they've been having success on PC, and there's just not much of a downside of expanding their games from PlayStation to Steam. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to release their new PlayStation 5 games on Steam per se. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon, but I do imagine that they will take some of their old PS4 library and then bring them over to Steam. Think of it this way, Horizon Zero Dawn came to PC ahead of Horizon Forbidden West. Not only will that expand Horizon's reach, but if somebody likes Zero Dawn enough on Steam, they might be more willing to buy Forbidden West on the PS5 or PS4 when it first releases. Well, they could do something like that with, let's say, God of War. That could increase the reach of Ragnarok, and you don't have to stop there either. Really, all of these PS4 games have done pretty much what they were supposed to. They've sold a lot of units and consoles, and these are expensive games to make. So, why not port them to PC and make some extra money? Fans will be happy, and it's good for the PlayStation business. If they're going to port any game to PC though, I'm going to recommend Bloodborne. We really need a 60 frames Bloodborne. That game is just too good to leave on 30 frames, but either way, it does sound like, once again, like PlayStation will continue to release games on PC. I don't think that's too surprising, and outside of a few quote-unquote super fans that'll be angry over an exclusive heading to PC, this is a smart move by Sony. Let's talk about those Nintendo Switch games leaking though, because this is a massive leak coming from the well-known Nintendo insider Zippo. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is that this is all unconfirmed, and Zippo has gotten some things right in the past, while some things were wrong. So you can kind of approach this leak with caution, but because Zippo has gotten things right in the past, there is some credibility to the name. I also think some of this is very believable, which I'll get into here in just a moment. Let's kind of go over each game though. According to Zippo, all of these games are in development over at Nintendo. This includes a remake of a Super Famicom Fire Emblem that was previously only released in Japan. Zippo does believe this could be an E3 announcement as it's nearing completion. They're also apparently set to release a Super Mario Party 2 this holiday, and I think this has been one of those big surprise games for the Switch. Some people may not realize this, but Super Mario Party has nearly sold 15 million units worldwide, which is absolutely crazy. I don't even think Nintendo expected Super Mario Party to have that much success, but because it did, it's easy to see why they would make a sequel. And that's the thing, they might put more of an effort into a sequel because it will have higher expectations this time. Maybe we won't have to wait 3 years for a big online update this time. I do hope Super Mario Party 2 isn't too intertwined with motion controls like the first game though. I loved these games as a kid, and really, I just like them to make them like the first 5 or so games again. That's not all though. Zippo also talked about Zelda. Zippo did say that Breath of the Wild 2 will not release in 2021 unfortunately, but did say that a Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD is obviously happening. We've kind of already heard that before from other outlets, but this is where things get really interesting. Once again, we are hearing about a new Donkey Kong game that's being developed by Nintendo EPD. We did talk about this last week, so I won't add too much here, but things have progressed since then. DK Vine spoke out saying that they had heard something similar, with it being developed by a new Nintendo EPD team since 2017 or 2018. And Zippo here also mentioned that it's highly likely to be announced at E3, and he seems very confident that it will be a 2D game. I still think that's a missed opportunity if true. I think that they should go 3D instead, but I'll be happy either way. The other game that we've talked a lot about on the channel though is a new 2D Metroid by Mercury Steam. I feel like we've been talking about this game for about a year now, and he does say that this game 200% exists and it's already finished. Now all they have to do is just announce it, so bring on E3. I am so ready for E3 to happen next month. We might get a brand new Donkey Kong and Metroid within the same year. That is huge in my opinion. And speaking of huge, Nintendo might also be planning a new Mario Kart for a holiday or early 2022 release. Whether this is Mario Kart 9 or a Mario Kart 8 expansion though remains to be seen. Now obviously Mario Kart 8 is selling extremely well at like 35 million total units sold, but as mentioned, a new Mario Kart would also sell extremely well as it would reset the cycle. Current owners would then purchase 9, and really if you think about it, Mario Kart 8 originally released in 2014 for the Wii U. So it has been a while since we got a completely new game, and that might be sooner than what we think. That should about wrap it up though, but if all these games are coming out like Zippo says, that is a crazy lineup for the Nintendo Switch, and that doesn't even include already announced games like Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Nintendo certainly has some big plans from what it sounds like, but as I said earlier, take all this news with a grain of salt. At the very least though, I do think a lot of this is believable, including Donkey Kong and Metroid, and hopefully we'll get official announcements for these games next month at E3. Now Xbox also seems to be prepared for a big E3 alongside Bethesda. This will be the first big event for them since acquiring Bethesda, and interestingly, that is E3 where Bethesda will also have their own event. It does sound like that they will have their events one after another though, to where it basically feels like one major event, and that's going to be exciting for Xbox fans. Now, we don't know their exact plans just yet, but one game I would absolutely expect to be there is Bethesda's mysterious sci-fi game, Starfield. There has been a lot of talk about this game because it's Bethesda's first new IP in decades, and they do make some of the most beloved games in the entire industry. The Elder Scrolls and Fallout are staples within the game industry, and now it's being reported by Jeff Grubb that Starfield will be an exclusive to Xbox and PC. I really don't think this is surprising at all, definitely considering Phil Spencer already confirmed that they acquired Bethesda for exclusive titles, but the reaction to this has been interesting to say the least. It seems like this caught a large part of the game community off guard. It really shouldn't though, and this is typically what acquisitions lead to. I mean, Sony themselves recently acquired Insomniac Games, and if they made another Sunset Overdrive or let's say Stormlands for VR, would you expect these games to release for Xbox or Oculus VR headsets, which they originally released on? Of course not. That's just not how acquisitions work, and the same can be said with Bethesda. The only time it has worked that way was with Minecraft, and that's a very special case. I mean, that just usually just doesn't happen. Again, Phil Spencer already confirmed a big part of the Bethesda acquisition was for exclusives, so for the most part, you should continue to expect Bethesda's games to be Xbox and PC exclusive. Now, there might be a few situations where that doesn't happen. Elder Scrolls Online content will continue to be made for PlayStation, and there might be a few contractual obligations to be upheld, maybe possibly with Indiana Jones, that remains to be seen, but for the most part, Bethesda games will be on Xbox consoles only. Now with that said, some Starfield information did leak out online. It looks like they're targeting a Q1 2022 release. That may be disappointing to some as it was previously rumored to be a holiday 2021 release, though I think this is okay. I personally like when big games release in the early part of the year rather than just cramming everything into the holiday period where it quickly becomes overcrowded. I mean, you have a lot of games that releases in that holiday period. Now there's also some leaked pictures of Starfield that made their way online, though I never show leaked pictures or footage on my channel. You can easily search those up if you want though. Regardless, I do expect that we will see a full gameplay reveal next month at E3, so let's get excited for that. Before I go though, let's take a look at the poll of the day. We've been hearing a lot about these stock shortages for next generation consoles, so I wanted to know where you all are on the situation. With these stock shortages, are you still struggling to buy an Xbox Series or PS5? And 31% of you did say that yes, you are, so even though the majority of you seem to have already gotten your next generation console, I would still like to see that number improve. I know stock shortages might last until 2022 from what they're saying, but I will key you all on what's worked for me. I was lucky enough to get the Xbox Series X and PS5 at launch, but well after that, I ended up getting a second PS5 for a friend, and it only took me, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks to get it. Now, I'm sure a lot of that has something to do with luck, but what I did personally was that I followed several PS5 and Xbox Series drop alert accounts on Twitter and turned on all of their bell notifications. I think I followed like 4 or 5, which was a little annoying as my phone would constantly blow up, but it was a big help. Jake Randall is a good follow that I would personally recommend, and he also gives you tips on how to purchase said console on each individual website. That was a big help, so I'd recommend checking him out. I'll leave a link below, but I also downloaded a mobile app by the name of Hotstock, which also alerts you when items go in stock. This stuff does help increase your chances of getting one of these next generation consoles, so you might want to give that a try. It's such a shame to see these stock shortages continue like this though. It doesn't really help with these scalpers buying up consoles either, but I hope all of you can get your console sooner rather than later. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.